You can get so caught up in the idea of winning that you forget to listen to your heart.
Do Jimmy McGill and Howard Hamlin have more in common than we think? The common link between them is Chuck McGill, big brother to Jimmy and mentor and colleague of Howard Hamlin. The relationships each had with Chuck were almost polar opposites in many ways, and yet Chuck commanded the loyalty and admiration of both. Indeed, Chuck largely acted as a father figure to both. Chuck was an intellectual giant who became an ace in his profession through hard work and dedication. At quick glance, Chuck seemed to adhere to his father's honest principles, and was thus a law-abiding citizen. However, Chuck's morals were largely defined by the law as it was written at a particular time, whereas the moral compass of his old man boiled down to more of a greater sense of right and wrong. Despite being a model citizen and a powerhouse intellect who was the embodiment of hard work, for whatever reason, his parents seemed to favor his much younger, degenerate brother. Unlike Chuck, Jimmy was a troublemaker. Jimmy was a thief who would rob his own family, and Jimmy preferred shortcuts to hard work. But Jimmy had something in great abundance that Chuck lacked: charisma. People loved Jimmy. Despite being a royal screw-up, Jimmy was a charming fella who exuded confidence in a way that made him very likable. Chuck resented what he deemed as undue praise bestowed upon his kid brother by all those around him, especially his parents, and most especially their beloved mother. When their mother was on her deathbed, Jimmy was hungry and wanted some food. Only Chuck was there to witness her final words as she cried out for Jimmy. This moment symbolically best defines all of the resentment Chuck had towards his scumbag kid brother. Chuck was the one who was right there by her side to the end, putting in the time and devotion, and in the end she cried out for Jimmy, who was out getting himself a sandwich. Chuck lied to Jimmy about her final moments, a sign of how bitter he was. The fact that Chuck was so much older than Jimmy undoubtedly left him longing for the good old days, when he was an only child long before Slippin' Jimmy came to be. Howard, on the other hand, was persuaded to become a lawyer by his desire to please his old man, co-founder of Hamlin and McGill. But Chuck was the one who acted as a mentor to Howard through law school and beyond. When Hamlin joined the firm, the name was subsequently changed to Hamlin, and McGill. Chuck respected Howard because, among other things, Chuck knows that Howard put in the hard work and dedication. When Jimmy secretly became a lawyer years later, Howard acted as a proxy for Chuck to deny Jimmy a job as a lawyer at HHM. There are two things happening here. Howard is exhibiting loyalty to his mentor and colleague, and Chuck is dismissing his younger brother because in his eyes he isn't a real lawyer. As always, Slippin' Jimmy took shortcuts, whereas Howard Hamlin exhibited the devotion and hard work required to earn his status. But for Chuck, Jimmy made a mockery of it. It's ironic that while Chuck respected Howard more professionally, Jimmy was the one taking care of him with his newspapers and his ice and his supplies, always eager to please his mentally ill brother. Jimmy viewed Chuck as a savior whom he idolized. He wanted to be just like Chuck, and he mistakenly believed Chuck would be proud of his achievement. But Chuck only saw Slippin' Jimmy, the degenerate whose ass he saved in the aftermath of the Chicago sunroof incident. Jimmy's overeager desire to please Chuck and gain his approval actually led Jimmy to harming him because Jimmy was the one who had a chance to get Chuck the help he needed with his mental illness. Howard is complicit in this too, and Howard had selfish motivations in terms of keeping the firm viable. But at the end of the day, Jimmy and Howard admired Chuck, and they both exhibited an unwavering desire to earn his approval. Howard was better at this, and Howard remained loyal to Chuck's will in keeping Jimmy out of HHM. This caused a lot of tension between the two, until the tensions eased off when Jimmy learned it was Chuck all along. But Chuck was determined to ruin Jimmy by any legal means necessary, which went against the spirit of their old man, who had a genuine sense of what was right and wrong, even if he was otherwise a sucker and an easy target. Chuck didn't see this as wrong, because if it was legal, it was moral. In his eyes, he was always trying to teach Jimmy a lesson that you need to obey the law. And in his overzealous quest, Chuck engaged in some morally shady behavior that was unbecoming, even if it was technically legal. Howard actually put in a good word for Jimmy at Davis in Maine, almost in defiance of Chuck, or perhaps out of guilt by his treatment of Jimmy because of his loyalty to Chuck. When Jimmy got in trouble over the commercial he ran, Kim got in trouble at HHM where Howard punished her for not informing them of Jimmy's designs. But this was almost certainly at the direction of Chuck. Jimmy runs the scam on Chuck, and it may have worked if Chuck wasn't such a consummate professional. No way Chuck is forgetting an address number that's a single digit off from the year of the Magna Carta. Again, Chuck is very underhanded, rejecting his old man's sense of right and wrong, and he sets his kid brother up to expose him, again to teach him a lesson that Jimmy needs to obey the law. According to Chuck, the law is all. The law is everything, and if it's legal, it's moral. Jimmy exploited his own brother's illness to make him look like a whack job, where he was also forced to come to the realization that his illness was not physical, but mental. Jimmy further looked to break Chuck by having his ex-wife at the hearing. It was an utter humiliation which sent Chuck on the warpath. Jimmy further exploited Chuck with the insurance, and by that point Howard had finally had enough. Howard realized Chuck was now a huge liability to the firm, and he was willing to spend his own money just to get Chuck the hell out of there. Howard, the kid brother Chuck always thought he wanted, had just called his bluff. Chuck had nothing left. Chuck had a moment of self-reflection, and deep down he finally realized that despite being an intellectual giant of epic proportions, he was mentally unwell. After Chuck took his own life, Jimmy and Howard both had renewed tensions with guilt over Chuck's death. Jimmy had taken advantage of and exploited his brother's illness, and Howard had taken away that what he most held dear, his legal career. Chuck took both for granted. Howard showed great loyalty to Chuck when he screwed Jimmy over on his behalf, while Chuck acted all outraged and innocent. And Jimmy showed Chuck unwavering loyalty by literally taking care of his supply needs and caring for his well-being. And yet, despite Chuck taking both of them for granted, Jimmy and Howard both still knew deep down that Chuck was mentally unwell and needed help. And they never helped him how he needed to be helped. They helped him how he wanted to be helped. In other words, at heart, Jimmy and Howard are both pleasers, seeking special connections where they need validation and approval from those they love and admire. After Chuck's initial betrayal, Jimmy transferred that pleaser void by turning his attentions all in on Kim, constantly looking to make her happy and progressively seeking her approval on more and more matters. And like Chuck before her, Kim is playing Jimmy and has been all along. She's taking advantage of his devotion and need for validation, and little by little, she is becoming more and more influential with every major decision he makes, particularly with regards to their co-creation of the Saul Goodman character. Kim tends to almost always get her way, and Jimmy is all too happy to do his part to ensure she gets whatever it is she wants, as long as he can be true to himself. But somewhere along the line, Jimmy lost sight of the fact that Kim is clearly made of sterner stuff. He awakened a sleeping giant, and she is now out of control. Now, we don't know a whole lot about Howard's relationship with Cheryl. It is possible that Howard may have done something horrible and unforgivable, but based on what we've seen in Howard's therapy session and his interaction with Cheryl, Howard's relationship seems an awful lot like Jimmy and Kim's. Both men constantly looking for approval, constantly seeking validation, and always looking to please their more demanding wives. Howard seems to be going out of his way to be kind to Cheryl, and she seemed to coldly dismiss him. As he suggested in therapy, Howard seems willing to put in the effort and do what it takes. Maybe this is Howard overcompensating, kind of like Walt overcompensated for all the lying by cooking breakfast. Skyler usually went out, but Walt Jr. was usually all too happy to eat a nice breakfast. And who knows, maybe Howard and Skyler were shacking up. Do we know for sure that Holly is Walt's? Or maybe Jimmy's little hooker scams got Howard in trouble with Cheryl. She did seem to uncomfortably gloss over that point when she mentioned bowling balls and so on.
You remember what was going on with Chuck's brother, Jimmy?
You mean with the bowling balls and so on? That's not over with.
We simply do not know the cause of Howie and Cheryl's problems. But as an audience, we are given Howard's perspective, which makes us inherently sympathetic towards his effort. But this is the same kind of thing we always got with regards to Howard's treatment of Jimmy and Kim. We know the story from their perspective, where Howard always comes across like an arrogant, elitist jackoff. So we can sympathize with them. But really, what did Howard ever do that was so bad? He remained loyal to his mentor who was manipulating him. He remained loyal to the firm that his old man helped build. And he reprimanded Kim for a lack of professional due diligence. But right now, Kimmy and Goodman are the scumbags trying to ruin poor Howard's reputation. Howard is the good guy here, at least where Kimmy Corleone and Saul Goodman are concerned. Howard might perhaps be the classiest individual character in the Breaking Bad universe, were it not for the fact that Walt Jr. existed. And I do not say that jokingly. Walt Jr. was as admirable as they come, a true moral compass with the right blend of loyalty and independence, where he could assess the difference between what is right and wrong better than any other character in the Breaking Bad universe, bar none. Howard ain't that classy. Nacho's dad might be close, but from what we've been shown, Howard definitely seems like one of the few good guys in a world of unruly, opportunist, degenerate scumbags. Even now, the rivalry between Jimmy and Howard largely resembled that of a sibling rivalry, not unlike a pair of brothers who just buried their old man. Again here, like the case with Cheryl, Howard is the one who tried to make amends, who tried to befriend Jimmy and offer him a job, to try and do him right. But deep down, much in the same way Chuck resented Jimmy for the attention he got from their mother, Jimmy seems to resent Howard because Chuck respected Howard more professionally. Remember, Jimmy was never happier than when he thought him and Chuck would be working Sandpiper as a brotherly duo. So it makes sense that Jimmy resents Howard the exact same type of way Chuck resented Jimmy. Then, of course, Jimmy has always been visibly a little reluctant about Kim's scheme to destroy Howard. It again feels more like a sibling rivalry, right up to the fact that in order to try and settle their differences, the two duked it out old school in mostly sportsmanlike fashion. Although even here, Jimmy proved a greater willingness to get down and dirty than Howard. But that's the thing of it. Whatever Kim and Jimmy have in store for Howard, he knows what they are capable of. He saw firsthand how they humiliated and destroyed Chuck, which ultimately led to Chuck being a liability with insurance, which finally made Howard push Chuck out. And then Chuck took his own life, and Howard has been overwhelmed with guilt. He saw firsthand how their scheme dominoed its way to Chuck's demise, including his own role therein. Howard knows he's up against a pair of really clever and innovative scumbags. But Kimmy and Jim are all cocky and arrogant, and I believe they still view Howard as a total wimp. But Howard Hamlin is a fighter. He saw the elaborate scheme they played on Chuck, and therefore might be a step ahead of them here, and realized that the withdrawal was a setup that he shouldn't fall for. And if that is the case, I think we're in for the old Scooby-Doo double mask trick on the horizon, where just when you think Kimmy and Jim perfectly execute their plan, Howard will flip the script and emerge victorious, having anticipated their move. Either that, or like Darth Vader before him, Jimmy will follow his heart, remembering what Howard once said to him.
You can get so caught up in the idea of winning that you forget to listen to your heart.
So what do you think of Jimmy and Howard in their ongoing rivalry? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Can't wait for the mid-season finale. Thus far, tight, 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 yeah! Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and have a wonderful night.
You think I'm crazy?
I never said that.
No, you didn't, because you're very polite. But you think it. What if it's all in my head? And if that's true?
This
allergy to electricity isn't real. It's a manifestation of something deeper.
I'm not saying it's 100% real, okay? But Chuck is smarter than you and me put together.
If it's not real, then what have I done?
You have the power to help your brother, truly help him. Ignoring this won't make it go away.
We're working together on this?
That's up to you, Jimmy. You're not a real lawyer. University of American Samoa, for Christ's sake? An online course? What a joke. Couldn't keep his hands out of the cash drawer. But not our Jimmy. Couldn't be precious Jimmy.
Mom took it upon herself to call you. I was just letting her know where I was.
You didn't cry to her on the phone?
What? No.
You didn't cry and beg Mom for help?
Jimmy.
No, Mom, it's me, Chuck.
Jimmy.
No, Mom.
Stealing them blind. And he gets to be a lawyer? What a sick joke. I should have stopped him when I had the chance.
In the end, you're going to hurt everyone around you. You can't help it. So stop apologizing and accept it. You're paying me out of your own pocket.
You won.
I don't want to hurt your feelings. But the truth is, you've never mattered all that much to me.
We're going to pull the plug, and we are going to live to fight another day.
What other day?
You remember what was going on with Chuck's brother, Jimmy?
You mean with the bowling balls and so on?
I don't know any Joe Dog or Tugboat. So we can end this right now.
We ain't leaving without our cash money, honey.
I think it's getting worse. In fact, it's possible you might hear or see something.
Who is this? That, my friend, is Albuquerque's public enemy number one.
I'm handling it. I will put an end to this, whatever it takes.
It happens today.
You can get so caught up in the idea of winning that you forget to listen to your heart.
At the end of it, he might never be able to practice law again. He doesn't deserve that.
Hey, Mom. Dad's cooking breakfast.
But don't worry, I'm also doing all the dishes.
Give it to me, Chandler. I want...
You're done. You are done!